Well, hello again. Got a few showers coming through again, and I thought I'd see if I could do this outdoors today, because it's just nicer to do it outdoors, I think. I have my 1/10 scale model. This has started to rain already. I have my 1/10 scale model Rendlesham spacecraft handy, so if it does start to rain, I should be okay. The camera is in a position where the rain can't get to it. Okay, it's Sunday the 5th of October. It's 12 minutes past midday. 2025, of course, and let's have a look at what we've seen this week in the wonderful world of the ET is coming here and crashing here. Pifflefest. Okay, so what do we have? We have supposedly an alien body is going to be shown at a psychic fair in France. Apparently it'll be in a glass case. Our old mate Ross Coulthart was asked to give his opinion on this, and he said it was a steaming pile. So thanks for watching, Ross. This is like the other the week before last, I think, where I'm going to have drips going onto the page and then off the bottom of the page onto the table. I'll just try and keep as much of it dry as possible. These are words of wisdom after all. Now apparently this is supposedly a body from the Roswell crash. Of course Roswell didn't involve ETs. You know, we know it was the crash of a mogul balloon. There's no doubt about that. No extraterrestrial involvement. Oh dear. Now, Mr. Coulthart, the investigative journalist that scoffs at people asking for evidence, you know, when we say he puts out all these ridiculous claims, and we say, well, where's the tangible evidence, Ross? This is pretty wild stuff. You know, he puts on a silly voice. He goes, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? That's Ross Coulthart. Is now saying, where's the evidence? Referring to these drones that are supposedly being spotted around the place. The ones I've seen look like the ones I saw before. They're just aircraft, you know, they've got navigation lights on them. So, you know, Ross so Ross Coulthart is refusing to call them drones. He says, where's the evidence that they're drones? And this is the same Ross Coulthart that says, where's the evidence, where's the evidence, where's the evidence? As he scoffs at people asking him for evidence to back up his ridiculous claims. Large spacecraft crashed outside the USA. I'm not going to tell you where it is. So, yeah. So, this is more run-of-the-mill aircraft footage. Now, actually, let's just go back to the other page. This is a bit all over the place, this. But, so they're going to show this at a psychic fair. It's probably going to be cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances. The psychic fair where this alien body is going to be shown. Oh dear. So yeah, thanks for watching, Ross. Another YouTube channel, UAP ET YouTube channel, has started a phone-in where you can leave your science fiction stories. Next caller, please. There's something I leave at the end of some of my comments, even on that channel. So I've left it there on a number of occasions. You're welcome. You're welcome. That's next caller, please. On a couple of comments, and now he's got a phone in. So you're welcome. Now, Coulthart is saying that these drones are back, this time over Denmark. There's speculation going around that this is Russia. Supposedly Trump knows about it. It's probably Trump trying to intimidate Denmark into handing over Greenland. Coulthart was asked to comment. He said he refused to call them drones. They're unknown objects. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence, eh, Mr. Coulthart? Okay, so actually, Putin has said that because Trump has said, you know, by hook or by crook, we're going to get Greenland. So Putin has said, well, if Trump tries to take Greenland by force, Russia will intervene. And I think we would have to hope that they do, really. We'd have to hope that the Russians would intervene there because Denmark, of course, is a member of NATO. And if Trump tries to take Greenland by force, Denmark could invoke Article 5 and we would find NATO fighting the US over Greenland. Can you imagine that? I think Trump has never heard of something called Project Iceworm. When the US tried to set up a secret missile base, they told the Danes it was a scientific research base or a seismological research base or something like that. But the real reason for it was they dug all these tunnels in the north of Greenland. They called it Camp Century. So they dug all these tunnels and they put an ice lid over the top, filled it all in with snow, put a metal roof on it. Filled it all in with snow, so it was all under the ground, and it was going to be a secret missile base for attacking Russia. That's what Camp Century was all about, Project Iceworm. They even took a, I can't remember how powerful it was, might have been 2 megawatt. It was one of these portable nuclear reactors that the Americans had at the time, and they took that there, installed it, and fired it up. So they had power for this underground base in Greenland. Project Iceworm. Now this was back in 1959, and of course they didn't tell the Danes what they were really doing. Now I'll leave a link to Project Iceworm below. It's quite an interesting story. If you've never heard of it, and have a look at it, and you'll be amazed. It's like something out of a James Bond movie. They do a bit of that, don't they, the Americans? The other one was the Project Azorian, you know, with the Glomar Explorer with Howard Hughes, to recover that Russian submarine. They told everyone they were mining manganese nodules off the seabed. So what happened to Camp Century was that the ice sheet is constantly moving, and it collapsed the tunnels, and it was just not viable to operate it as a missile base. That's the bottom line with Camp Century. Trump must have completely forgotten about this or not have been aware of it in the first place, because if he took Greenland and he had that in mind, it's not going to be successful. They would be beaten by nature, just as they were last time. Do I need that anymore? The 1/10th scale model of the Rendlesham Forest spacecraft. Jim Penniston, big fan of the Bush Tucker Man, of course. Oh dear. So anyway, I'll leave a link to Project Iceworm below. Now Coulthart is also telling us he's getting very frustrated with Jake Barber's Skywatcher. Now because Skywatcher's not letting Mr. Coulthart in. You know, Coulthart was under the impression that he was with the in crowd and he's going to go along and he's going to go and watch this psionic summoning of the spacecraft landing at their feet. It's not going to be a little tiny dot in the distance. He'll be landing at their feet. But but apparently Skywatcher is saying, "Oh no, Mr. Coulthart, sorry, it's all top secret. It's all hush hush." And Coulthart tells us that apparently two of Skywatcher's... I'm moving around a bit because there's drips. Oh dear. Two of Skywatcher's psionic assets summoned an ET spacecraft to land at their feet. They actually did this. Summoned. The aliens have flown light years across space. And they're just waiting in geostationary orbit directly above the Jake Barber's psionic summoners. They're sitting out in the deck chairs, you know, in their lawn chairs in the desert, psionically summoning. And they summon them to come and land. And and apparently they had some representatives from NASA. They had some representatives from NASA with them to witness this event. Now, you could knock me down with a feather, but they didn't have any cameras with them to record this astounding, monumental occurrence. They've gone out there, they've summoned an alien spacecraft to land at their feet. They've got NASA witnessing all of this to verify that it's all true. Of course, we haven't heard anything from NASA. Yet, they didn't take any cameras to record the event with them. You know, they fully expected to summon this spacecraft and, you know, have NASA witness this, but they didn't take any cameras to record this monumental event. Now, does that sound even remotely likely to you? Because it doesn't to me. It sounds like complete and utter bullshit. Absolute drivel. You know, you'd need the IQ of a carrot to even consider that might be true. So, now we think that this story came from Carl Crusher, you know, the guy that says, you know, if I say something, it's legit. Then in the background a rooster made a noise and he said, that's not an animal. Well done, Mr. Crusher. Thinks a rooster is something paranormal. Might be E.T., you know, disguised as a rooster, maybe. Difficult getting those big bulging eyes, you know, to form up nicely on that beak. That's the problem, isn't it? Put a line through anything Carl Crusher says. It's complete and utter drivel. So, apparently, Mr. Crusher is no longer involved. Is he not involved with Skywatcher? He's not involved with the Mount Wilson Ranch. They couldn't squeeze enough money out of that. So he's now he's been summoning ETs at Thunderstrike Ranch with Magic Mike Battista. You know, these guys are desperate to get a TV show like Skinwalker Ranch, aren't they? That's what this is all about. There is nothing to any of this nonsense, isn't it? It's just hilarious drivel. So Magic Mike Battista, you know, we saw the best effort that he could put forward was this mess, this out of focus blob. Yeah, and of course Magic Mike tells us he's interacting with the little grey ETs and the slightly taller ones. They're still greys, but they're taller. This is Magic Mike Battista. Of course, he doesn't have any, you know, good quality images of this, any high def video of this. You know, because he can do this at any time. If he can do this at any time, why doesn't he just set a camera up like I have, like that, and just be sitting here and then summon some of these ETs, you know, so you get a little grey next to him, either side. Or tall grey, looking over his shoulder. Why doesn't that happen? Apparently he can summon huge alien spacecraft to land within meters of him, any time he likes, but he chooses not to demonstrate this. Perhaps unsurprisingly. Is there anybody out there that believes any of this? Sorry, I keep bumping into my Rendlesham Forest ET spacecraft replica. Jim Penniston, big fan of the Bush Tucker Man, of course. Rendlesham Forest Institute. Oh dear. So anyway, so you know, Skywatcher's psionic assets never took cameras with them to record the ET spacecraft landing that they'd summoned, even though they had NASA representatives there to witness it and film any of it. NASA didn't film any of it either, apparently. We haven't seen any footage of it. Obviously be a super monumental discovery. They want the world and his dog to know that we're being visited by extraterrestrials. Carl Crusher and Mike Battista are clinging on by their fingernails trying to peddle this Thunderstrike Ranch drivel. It's getting more and more fanciful by the day, really, this stuff. So is the penny finally going to drop with Coulthart that Skywatcher is only releasing videos of flocks of birds, bugs, LED lights on drones, you know? Or is he still going to say, well, he's upset with them because they're not taking him along to see all this real ET stuff, you know? It hasn't occurred to the professional investigative journalist that he's not being taken along because all they've got to present is flocks of birds and bugs and little tiny dots in the distance, you know? He's not going to be seeing any greys talking to Mike Battista round a table, just like this. You know. He's not going to be seeing that because it's all bullshit. None of it's true. Is the penny going to finally drop with Coulthart? So, as I've said before, you know, anyone with a bit of technical knowledge, a bit of a technical background can look at Skywatcher's electromechanical dog whistle and say theatrical prop, new business. Next caller, please. Does Coulthart believe this is a genuine, you know, instrument? Genuine piece of equipment for summoning extraterrestrials? Just think of the arrogance of that, you know? You know, you got a starship that's flown here light years across space and it's just waiting to be summoned by someone in a lawn chair in the desert. You're not going to go and talk to the UN, you know, or go and visit the Kremlin or the White House, number 10 Downing Street, or, you know, China, wherever the president of China lives. Oh no. They're going to sit above the desert and wait to be summoned by a Skywatcher. Now, does that sound remotely likely to you? Oh dear. Yeah, there's an awful lot of fake, it's just fake bullshit rubbish out there to try and score TV shows. You know, invitations to give talks, to be keynote speakers. You get about 30 grand for being a keynote speaker, maybe more, you know. It's rubbish. You know, how long is it going to take for people to realise it's all rubbish? You know, I think it's pretty bloody obvious that it's all rubbish. I suspect Luna's team do too. Suspect it's all rubbish, of course, as Barber hasn't been called to produce any testimony, has he? Maybe he should be subpoenaed, and maybe Magic Mike should be subpoenaed as well, and say, okay, Magic Mike, you're telling us you can do all this stuff at your leisure. You can summon an alien spacecraft any time of night and day. You're interacting with these aliens. Show us, Magic Mike. We'll pay all the expenses to get the little minibus. You know, we'll go out in the desert. You know, we'll unfold your lawn chair for you, chuff your cushion up for you, give you a cigar. Let's see you in action. And what do you reckon's going to happen? So if you watch this, Senators Luna and Burlison subpoena Magic Mike. Slip of the tongue there, that's what I really think. He's as nutty as a fruitcake. Or just a chancer, maybe, with some bullshit stories, you know. So Magic Mike, subpoena Magic Mike and say, you can do this on a willy-nilly basis. Let's see it. Jake Barber apparently is backpedaling a bit now. He's saying he only knows people that can do this. Probably not worth subpoenaing Jake Barber. But certainly Magic Mike Battista is worth a subpoena, I think. You should be able to dismiss Magic Mike's claims within 24 hours as complete and utter bullshit, and just put it to bed once and for all. You know, the sort of stuff that him and Crusher come out with would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich. It's just drivel. The other thing too is that Magic Mike's story, he can summon an alien spacecraft to come and land at his feet, you know, metres away. The story stops there. What happens then? Yeah, the little legs come out of it and it lands. Does it sit on a cushion of anti-gravity plasma? Does a ramp come down and the beings come down the ramp? Do they just beam themselves in front of it? Where's all the detail? The devil is in the detail, isn't it? Oh dear. So the other thing too is we don't hear what the aliens have to say about this being summoned all the time. You know, is it a pain in the backside for them? You know, they come all light years across space. They're explorers presumably. They keep getting summoned. So they come down the ramp and say, "What WTF do you want this time, Battista? You keep bothering us. WTF do you want?" Does that happen? Oh dear. You keep summoning me and you keep summoning the rest of the fleet. You know, all these other different species, you keep summoning them. But you never tell us what you want. We can't keep doing this, mate, you know. Time is money. Tell us what you want or give it a rest. Pack it in. We're getting bored coming to the same place over and over and over. It's just a desert, you know, you sitting in a lawn chair. We're not getting anything from that. You know? Is that what the ETs say? It's complete and utter rubbish, isn't it? Oh dear. Oh, Jason Sands, he's still on the scene. He said while he was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, he was monitoring some phone lines. He had a conversation that mentioned an EBEN, which is apparently an extraterrestrial biological entity. And that the aliens, he overheard that the aliens were going to return to Earth after 30 years or so to recover their equipment and prisoners. Don't you think the aliens would recover their equipment and their people there and then? You know, this is back in 1990 apparently. You think they're going to wait 30 years? They're going to leave their crew members, their colleagues, the members of their species here to be poked with a fork for 30 years? You know, connected up to electrodes, cut up into little pieces to see what makes them tick. Does that sound remotely likely to you? You know, the ETs. Yeah, this is all classified, but the ETs. Yeah, we had a word with them, and they're going to come back in 30 years, and they're going to be collecting their equipment and their prisoners. Doesn't sound very likely to me. You know, sounds like they just recover their equipment and their prisoners, and of course the word prisoners is interesting as well, isn't it? They're not guests that are helping them with scientific research. They're prisoners. They're all chained or manacled in these little greys. Spoon-fed baked beans, probably through their ears, you know, because their mouths are not used for food intake. It's used just for squeaking sounds, you know, as aliens would chirp to each other. Look pretty ridiculous, wouldn't it? You know, someone spooning baked beans into a little grey alien's ear. Anyway, this is ludicrous, of course. ETs would have the technology to recover any equipment that fell on this planet, any of their people that fell on this planet. They would just recover them straight away. They wouldn't leave them here for us to examine. They wouldn't leave equipment here for us to reverse engineer so that we could figure out how to get to them and potentially destroy them. It's ludicrous, isn't it? It's just drivel. So put a line through Jason Sands. I mean, it's not even worth subpoenaing this guy. It's just nonsense. Yeah. You can imagine, can't you? You know, Kirk and Spock on the Enterprise. You know, the shuttle goes down to the surface to have a bit of a look around, and it crashes, and the people on the planet decide to keep that and Zulu and Uhura and whoever happened to be in it for 30 years. And Kirk and Spock would say, well, okay, you know, we'll come back in 30 years. They'd go and get it, wouldn't they? Oh dear. These will be members. These aliens that will be held prisoners will be members of a starship crew, of course. Yeah, I don't know. None of this makes any sense, does it? You know. They're not going to be things that are running around growling and you throw a stake through a cage, you know, like these science fiction films where the alien's always some sort of critter that's going to rip you all to pieces. These are going to be intelligent critters, you know, engineers and scientists, and, you know, cleaners, obviously. You know, you're still going to need people to go and mop out the dunnies on the spacecraft. Oh dear. Yeah, it's complete and utter rubbish. Full eyes with Jason Sands. I've said it before, but drivel. Oh, might have missed a page here. Now, I saw something with Uri Geller I thought was quite funny. Remember years ago, Geller appeared. Oh yeah, Uri Geller apparently is going to be looking at these alien bodies, or he was talking about seeing these alien bodies years ago. He never mentioned it years ago, of course. You know, why would he? You know, he could make much more money bending spoons than saying, "Hey, look, you know, I've got an alien in a glass box here." Now, remember years ago, Geller appeared on the Johnny Carson show. James Randi suggested to Carson that he doesn't let Geller use any of his own spoons or anything else. Just use stuff. What James Randi said to Johnny Carson was, just use stuff from the canteen here at NBC or the ABC, wherever it was. And that's what Carson did. He just used stuff from the TV station canteen. And blimey, you're not going to believe this, but Geller couldn't do anything at all. He couldn't telekinetically move any of the pepper pots around. You know, he couldn't bend any of the spoons. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm just having a bad day. You know, without the props, he's having a bad day." I'll leave a link to that below. That Johnny Carson, Geller on Johnny Carson. It's hilarious. Anyone would think he had zero telekinetic powers at all. You know, zero psychic ability. Oh dear. So now he's telling us that this is Uri Geller. He's telling us that Von Braun showed him some images of alien bodies and craft wreckage. This is images, not the actual bodies and craft. He also claims to have seen the bodies from the Roswell crash. We know the Roswell crash didn't involve extraterrestrials. It was a mogul balloon, you know. Read Mac Brazel's statement. I might leave a link to that below so you can read that if you're not familiar with it. Mac Brazel found the wreckage on June the 14th, not July the 7th. It was so unimpressive he left it in his field for 3 weeks. He described tin foil, rubber strips, balsa wood, a cardboard fin stuck to a surface with scotch tape. Now, does that sound like an alien spacecraft to you? I'll leave a link to that below. So, he claims to have seen bodies from the Roswell crash. Complete nonsense, of course. Yeah, the boss of the mogul balloon string program fell about laughing when he saw in the Roswell Daily Record RAAF captures flying disc, you know, because he knew what it was. One at balloon string number 4 that had crashed on Brazel's ranch. Now apparently, so this is complete and utter rubbish. So apparently, Werner von Braun took Geller to an underground facility at a NASA base and showed him the frozen carcasses. All of this is straight from the X-Files, isn't it? Always has to be underground base, you know, deep, dark, dingy, underground. You can't have it on the top floor. The small frozen carcasses of mangled bodies. that were clearly not of this earth. Apparently, Geller smuggled a Minox camera into the facility and took some photographs of the bodies, and he still has the negatives. Of course, he can't make the photographs public, and he can't reveal why. he can't make the images. He can't make the photographs public. I mean, even the most dyed-in-the-wool fanboy must be getting the picture now. You know, it must be occurring to them that this is all bullshit, all of it. Yeah, of course he can't, because they don't exist. They never have. It's all bullshit. You know, Von Braun never showed him any ET bodies. He took some photographs, but he can't. He's got the negatives. He can't have them. He can't have them developed, and he can't reveal why. Von Braun died in 1977. Okay, so it's 48 years ago. Is it? It is. Yeah, it's 48 years ago. Why wait 48 years to reveal this? You know. Why not publish the photographs as soon as Von Braun died? If you told Von Braun he wouldn't show them to anybody, as soon as Von Braun drops off the perch, you will not show the pictures of the alien bodies. Yeah, thud. Oh, well, maybe I could publish those, make a few quid. Ah, why would I when I can bend these spoons? It's coming to me now. Yes, I can see an X. Your Auntie Mabel doesn't like stairs. Yes. With powers like that, why on earth would you publish photographs of frozen alien carcasses? Oh dear. They would have made him a lot more money than his fake spoon bedding nonsense. I'll leave a link to Geller failing to demonstrate his psychic telekinetic powers below on the Johnny Carson show. Okay, so some more sensible stuff, and I'm going to get to some more ridiculous nonsense from Gary Nolan and the Soul Foundation, but simply because I've come to this, I saw that after I'd made these notes about Avi Loeb, so I'll just read this first. So Avi Loeb says 3i Atlas, he's done some calculations, and because it's not being affected by gravity, you know, it's not being pushed back on by solar wind or anything like that, Avi Loeb has calculated that it must have a mass of at least 33 billion tonnes and is approximately the size of Manhattan Island. Excuse me. Dr. Loeb also tells us that the famous WOW signal, you know, back in 1977, the big ear at Ohio State University picked up the WOW signal, radio signal from space, on about 1.42 gigahertz, about where we'd expect to see something from an alien species. So Dr. Loeb says that the famous WOW signal received back on August the 15th, 1977, by the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University came from around the same direction in the sky as 3i Atlas, within 9 degrees. So, and the chance of a random alignment within 9 degrees is 0.6%. So the question is, was the WOW signal transmitted by 3i Atlas? Dr. Loeb encourages radio astronomers around the world to point their radio telescopes at 3i Atlas to see if they can hear any radio emissions from it. That can't do any harm, of course. I do actually know some people that are involved in professional radio astronomy, and I had a word with them yesterday morning. And I said they're working with the SKA in Australia. And I said, has anyone asked you to point the SKA at it? And they said, no. But they didn't doubt that there were some radio telescopes looking at it. So I did say, any scuttlebutt about it, and they said no, they haven't heard anything. So there probably are radio telescopes looking at it, but no one's jumping up and down with excitement, so I'm guessing, just like a murmur, they haven't heard anything. Now, certainly can't do any harm though. Back in 1977, 3i Atlas was at a distance of 600 AU from us. That's 600 times the distance the Earth is from the Sun. It's about 3 light days. And to produce a signal on Earth of the strength received by the big ear, Dr. Loeb has calculated that the signal power would have had to have been about 1 gigawatt, 1 gigawatt, as Dr. Loeb calls it. This is, and he says, you'd need a nuclear reactor to generate that amount of power. Now, that's not strictly speaking true, because if Dr. Loeb had a better understanding of radio, he would know that you can produce a 1 gigawatt ERP beam with a lot less power than 1 gigawatt. Something called effective radiated power. It's like the signal from Voyager 1. The transmitter power is down to 8 watts. And it's, over a light day away from Earth. And with an 8-watt signal, because of the antenna gain, because the beam is so narrow, I could have calculated the ERP from Voyager with 8 watts and knowing the size of the antenna and the gain of the antenna, but I didn't bother. But that can still send a signal. That can still send a signal to Earth. Now I'm guessing it's nowhere near as big as the WOW signal, but you could generate a gigawatt of ERP with a lot less power than a gigawatt. So the gigawatt might not actually be transmitter power, generated by the object, if that's what was happening. We transmitted a signal into deep space from Arecibo, the Arecibo Radio Observatory, back in November 1974. Now, this signal had an ERP, an effective radiated power, of 3 terawatts. Now, that's a pretty big signal. 1 terawatt equals 1,000 gigawatts, or gigawatts, as Dr. Loeb would say. 3 terawatt ERP, 3 terawatt signal. But the actual transmitter power was only 100 kilowatts. Only generated 100 kilowatts of RF energy to feed into the dish to provide the 3 terawatt signal. Because of the antenna gain, because it's not omnidirectional, because all of the power that would have gone into an omnidirectional signal is squished into a narrow beam, and it pushes it out like a sausage balloon full of water, or you blow it, out goes your sausage balloon. It's like that. Instead of being everywhere or all around omnidirectional, you squish it out in a beam. So where was I? Oh yeah. So the actual transmitter power was only 100 kilowatts. This was for our 3 terawatt signal. So Dr. Loeb's claim that the 3i Atlas signal was comparable to the output power of a nuclear power station is a bit of an embellishment. The actual transmitter power could have been a fraction of 1 gigawatt. If 100 kilowatts can give us an ERP of 3 terawatts, that's 3,000 gigawatts. 3i Atlas would only need a 30 kilowatt transmitter, a 30 kilowatt transmitter to produce 1 gigawatt of ERP towards Earth. So you wouldn't need a nuclear power station for that. If it's an alien spacecraft, it's got a pretty substantial power source anyway, you would think. And producing a 30 kilowatt radio signal, radio transmitter, transmitter with an output power of 30 kilowatts, an antenna gain, give it a gigawatt of ERP, would be not very challenging. Okay, so yeah, so question is, I mean, if 3i Atlas was a spacecraft, why would it beam a signal at Earth that it knew wouldn't get here for 48 years? Why? Why would it? Actually, if it was 3 light days, away, the signal would only take 3 days to get here, wouldn't it? So, oh, of course, yeah, this was in 1977. So why would they? So if it's an alien spacecraft, it transmits a signal. It takes 3 days to get here, because they're 3 light days away, and it gets here in 1977. Why would they give us 48 years warning that they were coming? If it's aliens, why would they give us 48 years to prepare a super weapon to destroy them, if need be, to potentially destroy them when they get here? Why not surprise us? Why give us 48 years notice if it was an alien spacecraft? Sort of indicates it's not, doesn't it, really? Sort of indicates that the wow signal did not come from 3i Atlas. I mean, why didn't they light us up when they came past Jupiter? I mean, that's... Hey, you know, we're coming. Oh, crikey, you know, they're hostile. What are we going to do? As Avi Loeb says, you know, what if it's a black swan day? What if it's an invasion? What if they're going to take the planet, you know? Surely they'd be better off letting us know at the last minute, if at all, rather than give us 48 years notice. So I think yeah, why would ETs build a spacecraft with a mass of 33 billion tons? This is going to take some pushing around the galaxy, isn't it? So the fact that it's very high mass, 33 billion tons, there's a lot of nickel there. Nickel's a heavy metal. I would say that you know, it's pretty safe to rule it out as an alien spacecraft. An alien spacecraft would be as low mass as they could make it. I've said before, you know, we've got this new super material, graphene. It's been around for a while now, but it's 20 times stronger than steel, conducts like copper, super light, super thin. An alien spacecraft would be made of materials that would make that look like nickel. You know, and they're not going to be super massive, you know, 33 billion ton. I just think the fact that it's a minimum mass of 33 billion tons and there's a lot of nickel, heavy metal, been detected, I think personally, just a bit of critical thinking would rule it out as being an extraterrestrial spacecraft. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so moving on from something that at least we know is there, 3i Atlas, back to the science fiction. And yes, I think yeah, I like Avi Loeb. I think he's quite right. You know, we should consider the possibility that it could be an alien spacecraft and formulate a plan for what to do if we do come across one. If one of these does turn out to be an ET spacecraft, I think he's quite right. I think he should probably brush up on his radio, because the gigawatt and the nuclear reactor does sound like somewhat of an embellishment. Danny Sheehan told us not long ago, all 6 military defence services, the 18 intelligence agencies and the 32 Defence Department agencies, of course these are all going to be War Department now, aren't that are presently in possession of UFO information and artefacts have to turn these over to the National Archive on September the 30th this year. That was last Tuesday. It was, yeah, last Tuesday. See you last Tuesday. In my time machine. So, this is mandated in the House and Senate bill passed in 2023. Anything older than 25 years needs to be publicly released immediately. So, they're telling us at least, you know, Sheehan and co, that they're fully expecting, you know, Roswell was a very long time ago. They're expecting that to be released. Expecting us to be told that was an ET. That involved the crash of an ET spacecraft. And of course, it didn't. Now, I haven't seen Danny Sheehan jumping up and down with glee with his mate Jim Garrison, you know, with the big mop of white hair. He'd look a little bit like a negative of Leo Sayer, wouldn't he, jumping up and down, Jim Garrison? So, I'm assuming that never happened. So if it was mandated in the National Defence, I can't remember what NDA stands for now, I should have written it down, shouldn't I? But if it was mandated that it should be released on the 30th of September 2025 to the National Archive, why wasn't it? Did that happen? Does anybody know? Maybe you could leave a comment below, you know, and I don't delete links. So if you've got a link to anything relevant to this, you know, where you know this has happened, please leave a link below and I'll take a look at it. But what I strongly suspect is that all 6 military defence services, the 18 intelligence agencies and the 32 Defence Department agencies don't have any UFO information or artefacts to hand over to the National Archive, because it's all science fiction bullshit. They probably said, okay, you know, we've got a mandate, we've got to hand all this stuff over. Where is it, Smithers? You know, I haven't seen any information or artifacts, UFO information or artifacts. What about you, Barrington? No, I haven't seen any. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe that's what's happened. Maybe none of these agencies, these services and agencies, have any UFO-related information or artifacts to hand over. I suspect that's probably what's happened, because I've heard nothing. So it's been 5 days now. It's been 5 days since supposedly this was all supposed to be handed over to the US National Archive. All this UFO information and artifacts. And I'm sure if that happened, Danny Sheehan, you know, Jim Garrison, all these MUFON clowns would be jumping up and down with joy, saying, yeah, oh yeah, and look at all this stuff that's been immediately released to the public. Look at this stuff from 1947 we've been telling you all these years. But we're not seeing that, are we? So, I strongly suspect that their Global Disclosure Day, Danny Sheehan's Global Disclosure Day, which is going to be on the 20th, if they go ahead with it, they're going to have nothing to disclose. On the 20th of this month, which is only, 15 days away, 2 weeks away, 2 weeks and a day away, they're going to have nothing to disclose yet again, just like last year. It's not going to be national, it's not going to be Global Disclosure Day, it's going to be Global Egg on Face Day, because there's nothing to disclose. It's all science fiction bullshit. And Danny Sheehan and Garrison and the MUFON clowns, they're all going to be standing around going, oh, it's a cover up, you know, Steve Batshit will be there. Truth embargo, release it before I drop off the perch, please. And of course there's nothing to release, there's nothing to disclose. There is no ET material, technological or biological, on this planet. It's all bullshit, it's science fiction rubbish. So they're going to be, all they're going to be disclosing is, you know, what a bunch of know-nothing fanboys they are. Because they need to convince you that it's real. They need to keep saying, you know, give us a big grant, we want lots of money, so we can push for disclosure. We've got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing for disclosure. And they can push for disclosure forever and a day because there's nothing to disclose. It's the grift that just keeps on giving. Put a line through all these institutes, you know, this Paradigm Institute, the New Paradigm Institute, you know, ISA, Soul Foundation. It's all a complete and utter waste of time and money. Now I saw Dylan Borland. I mean, I put a line through Borland when I saw him at the hearing a couple of weeks ago. But he's now telling us someone cut his brake lines and tried to kill him in a car crash. Now, apparently the cops told him they weren't going to charge him over the crash as his brake lines had been cut. Now, was there a follow-up investigation? Because that's attempted murder, isn't it? Can we get an FO, a Freedom of Information Act, over sent to the cops involved to see if they mention brake lines being cut? Borland says he's got no evidence that the police told him that his brake lines have been cut. They didn't give him a report saying your brake lines have been cut. He hasn't said anything about being interviewed by the police with regard to who his enemies might be. You know, who do you think might want to kill you, Mr. Borland? So are the cops out there looking for the people that cut your brake lines? Attempted murder. This is complete and utter rubbish, isn't it? Can you imagine that? You know, I mean, if you want somebody dead, you might as well shoot them in the head as cut their brake lines, because either method is going to be obvious. Whichever method either of those methods that you use, it's going to be obvious that the person was murdered. You know, if you shoot them, they're murdered. If you cut their brake lines, they crash into a tree and they die. Brake lines are cut. They were murdered. There's no difference, is there? Why muck around with brake lines? Why not just come up to him, you know, when he's just getting in his car, when he's just come out of the supermarket, just walk past the car, you know, goodbye, Mr. Borland. Guy on a bicycle, you know, wearing lycra. Don't let your imagination run too wild with that one. But it's bullshit, isn't it? It's drivel. And you know, if he had died, there would have been obvious evidence that he'd been murdered, because the cops said his brake line's been cut. Now this is, I think, now we know Borland is a UFO nut. He's been a UFO nut for years. He would have watched all the X-Files episodes. And last time when I mentioned Borland with his triangle with a beam of light, you know, I showed a clip from I left a link below to a clip from the X-Files showing that. And now I'll leave a link below to, it's only a 1-minute clip from the X-Files showing Mulder with driving it, getting in a car and driving it, putting his foot on the brake, and there's no brakes. The brake lines are cut. He's stolen another scene from the X-Files. And people are still giving this guy the time of day. So this clip only runs for a minute, so just I'll leave it below, just have a look if you like. So apparently Borland tells us, or Borland does tell us, I saw him tell us this, we were talking to Corbell, I think, he did 3 drawings of his flying triangle. 2 were put into a SAP, Special Access Program. So he's done a sketch, A drawing. They're still... They're keen, aren't they? They're still building a house over the way. They work weekends. Although I suspect the main crew's only Monday to Friday. I think it's the probably one-man band contractors do a bit of work at the weekends. But it's a nice spot, beautiful views. I'd have to cut some of my trees down to get a view like this guy's got. But anyway, I'm going off at a tangent. Borland tells us he did 3 drawings of his flying triangle. 2 were put into a sap and prove we're not alone. We're not alone in the galaxy. We're not alone in the cosmos. 2 of the drawings Borland did were put into a sap and prove we're not alone. Now, does that sound like somebody that is in the living in the real world to you? Do you think I could do a drawing of a triangle and say, look, I saw this, it was flying just 100 feet above my house, and the US government go, wow, immediately we're going to put that into a sap. This proves conclusively we are not alone in the cosmos. We're not alone in the galaxy. It's drivel, isn't it? It's nonsense. It would insult the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich. Just looking at my cheese and pickle sandwich. He also tells us, perhaps unsurprisingly, he was seeing a psychiatrist, and so he had PTSD and depression, although I don't think he's a combat vet, is he? Goodness, that's where he got that from. And was about to lose his house. He thought he was about to become another homeless, disabled vet. He looks fine, doesn't he? He's not particularly disabled. But maybe the PTSD and depression qualifies as being disabled. But Borland says it doesn't. They don't consider him a disabled vet. Now, being homeless, being unemployable, having mental health issues, he's told us he's unemployable. He looks a bit odd when you see him speak. If I was interviewing him and he told me any of this stuff, I'd say, yeah, well, thank you for coming in, Mr. Borland. We'll be in touch. And that would be the last Mr. Borland would hear from me, of course. But, you know, being just another homeless vet is pretty good motivation to try and earn some money out of this ETs coming here and crashing here bullshit, isn't it? If he probably thought, if I can jump on that bandwagon, well, if I can get in front of Congress, yeah, I can get a book out of it, you know. I can get keynote speaker fees, I might even get a TV show. You know, that's what all this is about, isn't it? It's not about the reality of extraterrestrials coming here and crashing here and their technology being reverse engineered and their biology being examined. It's about him surviving in the real world, generating an income from it. That's what it's about. He offers no tangible evidence for any of his claims. To suggest that he can do 3 sketches of a triangle, 2 of them are put into a sap, and prove we're not alone in the galaxy, we're not alone in the cosmos. You know, I can't understand how somebody could think anyone would take that seriously. Can you take that seriously? You would have to be, even the most dyed-in-the-wool fanboy would not be able to take that seriously. Hand-drawn sketch proves we're not alone in the cosmos. We're not alone in the galaxy. It's nonsense, isn't it? I'm suspecting maybe he forgot his medication when he went along for the interview with Nat and Corbell. The other thing he said was, Corbell, to be fair, I mean, I don't have much time for Nap and Corbell. I think, you know, they embellish a lot of stuff, especially Corbell. But they were asking some pretty good questions. When I saw them, I think it was on their Weaponized podcast, they were interviewing Borland, you know, and they were asking him some pretty good questions. But they didn't push. When his answers were rubbish, they didn't push. I don't know whether they were afraid that he'd get up and walk out and they get views and clicks and money for having Borland on there, maybe. I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't give Borland the time of day. But he said when he went to Arrow, apparently he's told his story to Arrow. Arrow have obviously put a line through this guy. And, you know, I'm beginning to wonder whether Dylan Borland is actually Michael, the Michael Tim Phillips talks about, you know, the ex-director of Arrow, who's since resigned. But he said that there was this guy that was Michael, who was mentally unstable. He gave the impression that he thought he was a dangerous nutcase, didn't want him around his family. And why would you have a whistleblower around your family for a start? You know, I mean, you go to office, you go to your office to do a job, someone comes to your office. They don't go to your house, do they? So is Borland Michael? He's got mental health issues, he's admitted that. And he said when he went to see Arrow, he withheld an awful lot of stuff. Does that make sense to you? You know, why? You claim you're a whistleblower, you go along to Arrow, who's cleared to hear any testimony. You don't need a skiff to talk to Arrow. They want you to give them information they can check out. You want to convince Arrow that there is something to what you're saying, yet you keep all the really juicy stuff to yourself. And just give them a few tidbits. Arrow look at it and go, well, this is science fiction rubbish, you know? Wouldn't you give them the best evidence that you had if you really had such evidence? Doesn't that make more sense? Why on earth, no pun intended, would you withhold the juiciest tidbits from Arrow, who could investigate it and say, there's some meat on these bones, this is real? Because he knows there are no juicy tidbits that he withheld. If he'd given them any more stuff, Arrow would have looked into it, and just like the other stuff he's given them, they'd say it's science fiction rubbish. I think it's safe to put a line through Mr. Borland. This is nonsense, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's exactly what Arrow's for, investigating this stuff. Now, if I went along, I'm claiming to be a whistleblower, I'm not going to withhold all the best stuff. It's just ludicrous. The other thing that I thought was decidedly fishy was Borland tells us the police contacted him because they found his wrecked car. Okay. Now he invited them to come to his house to do a sobriety test, and they didn't turn up until the next day. Now, can you imagine crashing your car? The police find it, run the registration. They would come round your house immediately to test you for drink and drugs. They wouldn't worry about, you know, the engineering report to come from the car to see if the brake lines were cut or anything else. They would be on your doorstep. They wouldn't wait till the following day for you to sober up or to get any drugs out of your system to test you for drink and drugs. This whole story is nonsense. Makes no sense at all. So, Borland's story, yeah, more holes than a colander. Put a line through Borland, just like I have, and just like Arrow has. Science fiction fantasist, piffle peddler, trying to get on the bandwagon and make a few quid out of it. Okay. Magic Mike Battista. I might have mentioned this earlier on, actually. Magic Mike Battista is still hanging in there. He tells us he's interacting with the Greys. Yes, I mentioned this earlier, didn't I? The little Greys and the tall Greys. He's got no high quality video of it. I think this is something I've probably seen twice and forgotten that I've written it down once. Magic Mike presents zero tangible evidence to support his interaction with the Greys, or the fact that he can summon alien spacecraft to his feet. We've already talked about that earlier on. That's just too pathetic for words. Now, our old mate Gary Nolan of the completely pointless Soul Foundation, you know, the shit out of luck foundation, they're going to be shit out of luck if they think they're going to be looking at any extraterrestrial technology or biology. Tells us he's been talking to people that claim they're directly involved in the ET reverse engineering program, the Legacy Program. Now, of course, Gary Nolan doesn't name them. I suspect this is because he would be, because we would be familiar with the names and we would fall about laughing. They're probably going to be like Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis and these sort of people. Jay Stratton. So, Senators Luna and Burlison, if you really want to get to the bottom of this, subpoena Gary Nolan and say, okay, you're telling everyone, you're telling the world on the social media platforms that you are talking to people that are claiming direct involvement in reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology, maybe examining extraterrestrial biology. Although I'd be asking why they don't give it to Nolan for that. Nolan's a bioman, isn't he? He'd be able to tell. Now, subpoena Gary Nolan and say, okay, name these individuals. And then subpoena those individuals and say, okay, you've been telling Gary Nolan that you've first-hand personal experience working on extraterrestrial materials, recovered spacecraft, legacy program. Let's see some tangible evidence of that. Let's go and see where you're doing this work. Give us a couple of small samples that we can get analysed by some reputable universities. Get it peer reviewed. This is definitely extraterrestrial material. We've never seen anything like this. That's the way to get to the bottom of this. Subpoena Gary Nolan, demand a list of names. The people that are claiming to be working on this stuff, to be personally working on extraterrestrial materials. That's the way to get to the bottom of it. Because I strongly suspect they'll go, oh, no, did I say that? What I meant was, I've been told. If they go down that path, okay, subpoena them, Well, I was told by, subpoena them. I was told by, subpoena them. Get to the bottom of it. This will go on forever, And all of these people that are pushing all this science fiction rubbish will be hiding behind this, I've been told. I can't talk about, I'm a whistleblower, but I can't talk about that. Have you looked up the definition of a whistleblower by any chance, Mr. Elizondo? Mr. Grusch? Subpoena Gary Nolan. Get him in there, get a list of names, and subpoena them. And work your way down through it. If you really want to get to the bottom of it, that's the way to do it. What you'll find at the bottom is it's all science fiction rubbish. No one has been doing any of this. It's just bullshit. They've been stringing fanboys along for years, if not decades. Gary Nolan's happy to swallow all this bullshit because he's told us when he was a kid he used to read all these science fiction books. His head's full of science fiction. He loves all this stuff. He loves the idea of ETs coming here and crashing here, Give it the slightest critical thought and it's very obvious that it's not happening. Just look at the people that are saying they can't present, they can't tell you, I can't tell you that, I'm a whistleblower. I can't show you where this is. I can't give you any samples, There's always a barrier between what they're saying and tangible evidence. And that's because the tangible evidence isn't on the other side of the barrier. It doesn't exist. So, yeah, just subpoena Nolan, get a list of names, subpoena all the people on the list. Let's get to the bottom of it and put this science fiction rubbish to bed once and for all. I mean, they haven't been, apparently these people that have been talking to Gary Nolan haven't been able to figure out any of this technology. This is why we don't see it. You know, we don't see Musk selling a free energy cube that will run your house, you know, or BP, you know, solar panels, you know, BP free energy box. You know, we're not seeing any of this because they haven't been able to figure it out. You know, they've only been looking at it and poking it with a stick for 80 years apparently, if not more. But they can't figure it out because it's like giving a cell phone to a caveman. Now that is not a very good comparison because a caveman would know nothing about electronics and physics. Our understanding of physics is not bad. Okay, we don't understand gravity, we don't understand dark matter, dark energy, but we've got a pretty good understanding of physics. They're very clever physicists out there. And I think if we had any technology from an extraterrestrial species, they would be able to figure it out. Even if they couldn't duplicate it, they would be able to figure out what it's doing and how it's doing it, is what I think. You know, so gravity manipulation, free energy. Free energy is not real, I've said it before. Nothing in nature is free, complete nonsense. Anti-gravity, who knows? Once we figure it out, maybe. But I think if some of our top physicists had access to something that actually could generate anti-gravity, they would be able to figure it out pretty quick, to be perfectly honest. We don't see any of this stuff because it's not being reverse engineered, none of it's real. Science fiction. Now, Nolan has only been told the reverse engineering is happening. He doesn't know as fact that it's happening, and his mate Blumenthal said the same thing. They're only claims. They don't know as fact that any of this is real. A bit of backside covering going on there. But I think it's pretty obvious that it's all science fiction rubbish, and all they've got to do is dob these people in, get them subpoenaed. Okay, is this real? Is this not real? Yeah. So I did actually have a quick look at a video from the Soul Foundation, the Shit Out of Luck Foundation. That Nakatelli was on there. You know, the guy that was in front of Congress saying about a big rectangle, and these guys had seen this triangle, and they'd all written their statements out, all their testimony out for him, but sadly the dog ate it, so he couldn't produce the testimonies. Just another science fiction story, zero tangible evidence to support it. The dog ate the testimonies. Leslie Keane was there as well. You know, now Leslie Keane has said that she withheld a lot of the information when she did the article in the New York Times back in 2017. She wanted to steer the narrative towards the ETs coming here, UFO narrative. And she didn't want to damage the credibility of that narrative by including a lot of other information, so she left it out. They put a line through Ms. Keane, Leslie Keane. Waste of time. Nakatelli, waste of time. There was another guy on there. I can't remember his name. I didn't even make a note of it, but a waste of time. You know. So the Soul Foundation, I mean, I don't know what the point of it is exactly. They're not going to be getting their hands on any ET technology or biology to examine. All they're going to do is go on there once a month and do a, you know, I've seen this, I've seen that, you know, somebody told me this, somebody told me that. Well, I'd like to tell you, but I can't discuss that. It's all we're going to see. It's a complete and utter waste of time, isn't it? Soul Foundation. Just like the Paradigm Institute, the New Paradigm Institute, ISA, you know, all of these organisations are just a waste of time. Yeah. Oh, Chaz Smith. Yeah, okay. I couldn't watch much of that soul nonsense, so I didn't really listen to Mr. Smith. But it's going to be more of the same, isn't it? If it wasn't, it'd be all over the front page. We'll take that for granted, can't we? Last and certainly least, Richard Dolan and Bryce Zabel are talking up UFO and USO sightings all over the world, apparently. Crash helmets, everybody. These sightings are apparently so frequent that there isn't one single tangible link between any of these sightings and extraterrestrials. Not one. So Bryce Zabel and Richard Dolan are talking up all these hundreds, thousands of UFO, USO sightings all over the world every day. Yet there isn't one single tangible link between any of these, not one of them, of all these thousands of UFO and USO sightings, not one tangible link between any of those and extraterrestrials. You know, this is insulting the intelligence of a cheese and pickle sandwich, isn't it? It's drivel. Not one tangible link. All these thousands of sightings that Dolan and Zabel are telling us about. But they have to, they have to talk up this science fiction rubbish because it's their job. Dolan has even said in his own words he's no intention of getting a real job. You know, he's quite happy milking this UFO, USO rubbish. He doesn't want to go and work for somebody. Good grief, no. Get a job in the real world, FFS. Not when he can milk the gullible like they're doing. So, yeah. So him and Zabel and all the rest of these piffle peddlers, you know, they're going to be milking the gullible for as long as they can get away with it until these, you know, the gullible are handing over their hard-earned, you know, for disclosure. And they're going to be doing it forever because there's nothing to disclose. It's just nonsense, you know. I think more and more of them are waking up to it every day. You know, people that have always been, oh yeah, this is real, you know. There's been so much now of I can't talk about it, you know, we can't see any evidence, you know, that people are beginning to wake up. Even a lot of the dyed in the wool fanboys are beginning to wake up to the fact that it's all bullshit. There is nothing whatsoever to ETs coming here, crashing here, visiting this planet. It's just not happening. Alright, well, as always, if you've struggled through the video all the way to this point, many thanks for watching. And maybe I'll catch you again. Just take my 1/10 scale Rendlesham spacecraft. Back inside.